or have another print disability which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org. You're probably tuning in right now for the off-duty section of the Wall Street Journal. You can now tune into that a couple hours later at 8 p.m. We're now presenting the Jamestown Post-Journal on a regular basis, and this will be its home. Stay with us for the reading of this, and thanks for listening.
Hello, this is Margaret Mack, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from recent issues of the Jamestown Post-Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. And from the Monday, April 27th issue, we have a story from the Associated Press. A media dinner shooting suspect wrote about targeting of administration officials, Trump says. Washington. The man accused of trying to storm the ballroom at the White House Correspondents Association dinner with guns and knives had written about targeting Trump administration officials and his family, raised concerns with law enforcement before the event, President Donald Trump said Sunday in an interview on Fox News Channel. The accused gunman's family had alerted police in Connecticut, Trump said, revealing new details about a chaotic encounter that disrupted one of Washington's glitziest annual events the night before. The suspect, identified by law enforcement officials as 31-year-old Cole Thomas Allen of Torrance, California, was expected to face criminal charges on Monday from the Justice Department, whose acting leader, Todd Blanche, said the suspect traveled by train from California and checked in as a guest days earlier at the Washington Hotel where the Saturday night gala dinner was held with its typical tight security. Law enforcement officials who have interviewed Allen's relatives examined the gunman's electronic devices and his writings, primarily believe he intended to target administration members in attendance at the dinner. He attempted to charge into the cavernous ballroom at the Washington Hilton, but was tackled to the ground in a violent scene that resulted in shots being fired. Trump being hurried off the stage and guests ducking for cover beneath their tables. It does appear that he did in fact set out to target folks who work in the administration, likely including the president, Blanche told NBC Meet the Press. The suspect is believed to have purchased the 2 firearms he carried within the last couple of years, Blanche said. He is not being cooperative and is expected to face multiple charges on Monday. Video posted by Trump showed the suspect running past security barricades as Secret Service agents ran toward him. One officer was shot in a bullet-resistant vest, but was recovering, officials said. The gunman was taken into custody and was not injured, but was being evaluated at a hospital. He failed, Blanche said on CBS Face the Nation. Law enforcement did their jobs. Authorities believe the suspect fired the shot that hit the Secret Service officer, who is expected to make a full recovery, Blanche said. Social media posts that appear to match the suspect show he is a highly educated tutor and amateur video game developer. A May 2025 profile photo of Allen appears to match the appearance of the man in a photo of the alleged attacker being taken into custody that was posted Saturday night by Trump. The photo, posted to a social networking site LinkedIn, shows him in a cap and gown after graduating with a master's degree in computer science from California State University. Allen earned a bachelor's degree in 2017 in mechanical engineering from California Institute of Technology in Pasadena. He listed his involvement there in a Christian student fellowship and a campus group that battled with Nerf guns. The shooting at the security barricades happened minutes after the event got underway. The Secret Service and other authorities swarmed the room as guests ducked under tables by the hundreds. Gasps echoed throughout the ballroom as guests realized something was happening. Hundreds of journalists immediately got on phones to call in information. "Out of the way, sir," someone yelled. Others yelled to duck. From one corner, a "God Bless America" chant began as the president was escorted off stage. Outside the hotel, members of the National Guard and other authorities flooded the area as helicopters circled overhead. After an initial attempt to resume the event, it was scrapped for the night and will be rescheduled. Trump was unusually conciliatory after what he saw as a third attempt on his life in less than 2 years. He suggested that his personal politics had made him a repeated target, but he also called for unity and bipartisan healing in an increasingly violent world. "It's always shocking when something like this happens. Happened to me a little bit, and that never changes," Trump told reporters in a hastily organized news conference at the White House late Saturday night. And next we move to some local news. This article written by Gregory Bacon. Mayville officials upset with Lakeside Park work. Mayville. Village officials are disappointed with the paving work done so far at Lakeside Park. Before the last regular village board meeting, officials discussed Lakeside Park during its workshop. In 2023, it was announced that the village was awarded a $650,000 grant for improving the landing plaza near the Chautauqua Belle, installing a handicap-accessible kayak launch, and installing a waterfront pedestrian and bicycle trail. The grant would cover 75% of the cost, and the village was responsible for the remaining 25%. Mayville hired Barton and Ludus to do the master planning and design. Rock of Western New York, which is based in Westfield, was hired to do the paving. More grant funds are being sought for the kayak launch. During the April meeting, there were 3 change orders by Rock of Western New York. One was for $26,606. A second was for $14,194, and a third was for $47,869. Mayor Rick Seiper said when they were digging in front of the Chautauqua Belle for the landing area, they encountered ash. "That isn't very good material to park cars on," he said. Rock of Western New York also encountered about 20 railroad ties which needed to be taken out. Finally, additional excavation was needed, and more than 60 tons of material had to be brought in. Otherwise, the parking lot would have fallen apart once it was paved. Seiper said Rock of Western New York has done a poor job of submitting proper paperwork, which is why the change orders hadn't come until this month. Trustee Bill Ward asked about the paved trails, which he noted has gravel on each side. Seiper said the gravel was put in for the winter and will be removed and replaced with topsoil. Ward also noted that one trail seemed to end randomly. Seiper said the trail will be connected and improved. Trustee Mark Perry questioned if the problems that Rock of Western New York ran into should have been known ahead of time. We knew it was a railroad. We knew that it was nothing but a mud bog for centuries. We knew that it brought fill of all types there. What did they expect when they opened it up, he asked. Perry also said the work done so far looks like hell, and questioned if Rock of Western New York should continue the work. We've got to go ask these taxpayers that are already stretched, like we all are, for something that I do not think is their fault, he said. Ward agreed. It's substandard work, and now we're talking about paying the same person who did the substandard work almost another $100,000, he said. Cyper replied by saying, "Remember, the project isn't done. You're seeing a half-complete job, and when any job is just sitting there for months, it doesn't look good," he said. Cyper said that could stop the project in its tracks. Perry responded, "I don't think you settle for improper work." When the time came to vote on the change orders, Perry and Ward voted no, while Cyper and trustee Janelle Webb voted yes. Trustee Daniel Roosh was not in attendance. After the vote failed, Cyper called for an emergency meeting 2 days later, where the board discussed the project with Barton and Lotus attending virtually. At that meeting, Roche was in attendance, but Ward was not. During the meeting, the Barton Lotus representative said the change orders were justified and needed to be done immediately. He said if the village doesn't pay them, he thinks the village could face a lawsuit. He noted that the documentation had been slow and incorrect, which is why the change orders took so long. Cyper said going forward, the village is going to have its Department of Public Works director be at the work site to make sure the work gets done properly. Cyper also said the village may fine Rock of Western New York if they don't get the project done by June 30th. The board voted again on the change orders. Cyper, Webb, and Roosh voted in favor of all 3 change orders. Perry voted no for 2 of the 3 change orders. After the meeting, he said he voted in favor of one of the change orders as a negotiation toward fairness. He continued to express concern that the Lakeside Park work isn't being managed properly and opposes having village residents pay more. And next we have some county news. This article is written by Sarah Hothouse. Rental inspection letters sent in city. In mid-April, letters were sent out from Chautauqua County to people regarding rental inspections. Ms. Falk from the Department of Development talked with the City Council's Housing Committee recently about the letters. There are 2 separate rental registrations, one from the county and one for the city, Falk said. The city is specifically in the city limits, and the county is the entire 14701 zip code. The county's main focus is lead testing, so any property that is registered as a rental unit and was built before 1980 received this letter, Falk said. We've gotten a lot of calls. In quotes, well, 20 years ago it was converted back to a single family and we own it. Not a problem. It just never got changed at the assessor's office. The data for the rental inspections and letters was pulled by the state from the municipal data centers. And so Falk said there are about 20 inspections lined up for the Department of Development right now. The overall process is simple, she added, saying that they need to get things lined up with Kenny Garcia, Building and Zone Code Officer, who then does a quick walkthrough to verify it is a single-family unit. That's all he's looking for when he goes into these homes, is that they are owner-occupied, Falk said. He's not going to nitpick and start handing out a bunch of code violations. We are just ensuring that it is a single-family home, and then he will issue a new certificate of occupancy to reflect that it is a single-family home. The DOD then goes to the assessor's office, submits the certificate to them, and the property will be updated and removed from the state list. Falk said that they had been getting a lot of questions about this, including if a lead test is still required. She said it is not, but people should always be making sure their home is lead safe. The city's inspections are different, and they will be going through and looking for code violations and making sure the unit is habitable. Falk emphasized that for the other inspection, it is to update the list that the state pulled, which has not been updated in decades, and to get the property type updated with the assessor's office. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Jamestown Post-Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. And next we have a few obituaries to read. Frederick L. Obert Jr., 93, of Sinclairville, passed away Thursday, April 23rd, in UPMC, Chautauqua. Deborah A. Crasty, 73, of Rochester, formerly of Jamestown, died Friday, April 24th, 2026, in her home. Monty G. Lotta, 58, of Falconer, passed away on Friday, April 24th, 2026, at Heritage Park Nursing Facility. And finally, Stella K. Dines, 99, of Jamestown, died Friday, April 24th, 2026, in Heritage Park Rehab and Skilled Nursing. And next we have a story about a local musician, Miranda Wilcox. This article is written by Michael Zabrowski. When Miranda Wilcox was 15, the proverbial light bulb went off in her head. That's when she really started to get into songwriting and explore the craft more. To Miranda, songwriting is about telling a story, and she excels at telling stories through music and song. I can change the intention, Miranda said. I try not to do the basic love story thing and sing about boys all the time. I've really been enjoying writing about my own journey. Currently, she said, she's writing a song called Hiding on Stage, and it's about being vulnerable when performing. While on stage, she added, the stage is a safe haven, a way for her to hide and have an escape from the world around her. She said she sees herself as somewhat of an introvert, but on stage she has a lot of humor and loves to talk. You can see that on stage, she said. I love talking to people after the show, but seeing an introvert get on stage and completely shapeshift is also really awesome in itself. The singer-songwriter said her original songs don't fit into any certain genre and doesn't think about them finding a home in any certain genre. I think that makes me unique, Miranda said. I think a lot of people do fixate on a genre and then can be helpful for marketing purposes, I guess. Whether it is pop, rock, country, jazz, R&B, or classical, you hear the passion in her voice. And the passion doesn't wane. For me, I'm blessed to have a very versatile voice, and I can sing in all different types of styles, Miranda said. Miranda said that one reason she is a musician is because of how music ebbs and flows throughout her life. Right now, unlike other areas of my life, it, being a musician, has a lot to do with collaboration, Miranda said. I love writing songs with people, and at this stage of my life, being in college and around so many musicians, I get to do that. The Faulkner Central School graduate is a sophomore music education major at SUNY Fredonia. Miranda added that she will collaborate with music and lyrics, and one doesn't have to be before the other. Sometimes, she said, it's both. I've collaborated so many different ways, she said. The songstress said a friend of hers brought a partial electric bass line, and they began dissecting and adding to the part, and eventually a song was formed. I never experienced it before I came to Fredonia, she said, but at Fredonia she is surrounded with like minds, something she rarely experienced at Faulkner Central School. Anyone who could put their entire life into music, I don't know anyone like that, she added. Talk with Miranda about any aspect of music and her face defaults into one big ear-to-ear smile. As an education major, she has found her niche, helping students and children find their passion through music. Miranda was telling her friend recently at lunch that she can visibly see a child's face change when the child is listening to music as opposed to when a child is not listening to music. The benefit it has on their learning and their ability to express themselves is beautiful. And that's why I have such a calling to help students and children find their passion. And next we have the column Focus on Senior Issues. Office for Aging to hold Expo on May 21st. Question. Last year about this time there was an event in Fredonia, but I couldn't go. Is that event being held again this year? Do you know anything about it? Answer. I think I know the event you are thinking about. The Chautauqua County Office for the Aging held an event called Shaquaging Expo and Conference at SUNY Fredonia. They are holding that event again this year, so let me tell you about it. The Shaquaging Expo and Conference is being held at SUNY Fredonia on May 21st, 2026 at the Williams Center on the SUNY Fredonia campus. The event will go from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The event is held in May to celebrate Older Americans Month. In 1963, President John F. Kennedy designated May as Senior Citizens Month to recognize the 17 million Americans that were over 65 years old. The designation of this month is to recognize the contributions that this population has given to our country, to raise awareness of the challenges of aging, and to promote the programs that support the independence and dignity of older Americans. Every year, many communities celebrate this month with activities, programs, and events to celebrate this population. That population has grown to over 67 million in the U.S. That population name has also changed over the years. Senior citizens, elderly, older Americans are just some of the names we use. What is significant is that this population today continues to be a vibrant and important population to our economy and our community. This population continues to work, volunteer, and contribute to the businesses, agencies, and services in our country. Without their contributions, our economy would collapse. The May 21st Expo and Conference this year will include an exhibit hall where local community-based organizations will be available to speak with attendees about their programs and services. There will be over 70 agencies, programs, and service providers there to give you an opportunity to learn about what they do and how they can help you. There will also be educational breakout sessions offered in classrooms within the Williams Center. Sessions will include diabetes education, scam prevention, money management, Medicare 101, legal planning, pain management, exercise class, and more. Registration is not required to attend the event, But to attend the educational breakout sessions, registration is recommended. To register, you can visit the website at chautauquacountiny.gov/CHQ Aging Expo. You can also call 716-753-4582. Transportation assistance can be requested when you register for the event. There will be lunch available for attendees to purchase. Each vendor will also have a basket to raffle for attendees to try to win. Attendees can be older adults, caregivers, and families. This is an event designed to provide educational opportunities as well as an opportunity to ask questions, gather resources, and learn about services available in our region. Be sure to watch for more information or call 716-753-4582 or visit the Office of the Aging website listed above for more information. CHQ Aging has a useful monthly newsletter on their website called CHQ Aging Connections, and there's more information available there. I look forward to seeing you at this event. I know I will be there. I look forward to seeing all the providers and services available. I look forward to seeing all the familiar faces and some new ones. Janelle Shuga is a geriatric care manager, helping seniors in our community access services and insurance. And in local briefs, we have a notice from Cornell Cooperative Extension there to host lunch and learns. Cornell Cooperative Extension Chautauqua will host several lunch and learn webinars in May. Webinars will take place every Monday throughout May and will run via Zoom from noon to 1 p.m. Throughout May, those participating will learn about the process of the plant, from starting seeds and planting a garden to harvesting the tomato from its vine and ways to use produce. Sessions will also dig into creating compost and different methods to produce soil at home. Sessions include seed starting and garden planting on May 4th, composting curiosities on May 11th, growing in small spaces on May 18th, and Tomato Talk, Varieties and Vines on May 25th. To register, visit tinY.com/3Z6XSVZS. Registering will bring updates, reminders, and Zoom access links to the webinars. For more information, email Eliza Hensel at emh275@cornell.edu. You can also call 716-664-9502, extension 203. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Jamestown Post-Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. And also under regional news, there's an article called The Power of Partnership. The United Way to begin community baby shower collection on May 1st. The United Way of Chautauqua County will begin its community baby shower collection drive on Friday, May 1st. Through its connections across sectors, United Way is mobilizing individuals, businesses, and community organizations to facilitate the collection drive throughout the county. This year, the United Way will partner with the Northwest Arena, M&T Bank locations in Dunkirk and Jamestown, the Patterson Library in Westfield, Bemis Point Golf Course and Tap House, Crown Street Roasting Company, and more. It's a testament to the power of partnership and shared purpose that this collection drive gets stronger every year, said Amy Roller, United Way of Chautauqua County Executive Director. When people and organizations across this county come together, families feel it, and so do we. Last year, the United Way received donations totaling $8,760. All monetary gifts were used to purchase essential items for moms and babies. The purchases, along with all physical donations, were then distributed to those in need through United Way's network of community partner agencies. The community baby shower is one of the most tangible ways people can support young families in our community, said Eric Rinaldo, United Way Community Impact Manager. Every single donation helps make sure a baby has what they need in those earliest months. When families have a strong start, the whole community is stronger for it. The 2026 Community Baby Shower will run through June 11th. New baby items can be dropped off at any of the following collection sites: United Way's Jamestown office at 208 Pine Street, United Way's Dunkirk office at 626 Central Avenue, M&T Bank at 737 Foote Avenue, Jamestown, M&T Bank 1 East Main Street in Fredonia, Northwest Arena at 319 West 3rd Street in Jamestown, Patterson Library at 40 South Portage Street, Westfield and the Bemis Point Golf Course and Tap House at 72 Main Street, Bemis Point. They are accepting donations May 1 through May 11th. Donations can also be made online by credit card or by purchasing items directly from United Way's Amazon wish list, which features the top needed items as identified by the United Way's partner agencies. To learn more, you can text Baby United to 41444. Beyond making donations, local businesses and community organizations can participate in several ways. Become a drop-off site. Expand access to the drive by hosting a collection point. Host an in-office baby shower. Invite employees to bring baby items and play games. The United Way provides a toolkit to help get an event started and will recognize participating businesses on social media. Becoming a sponsor, sponsors receive recognition across United Way's social media, print materials, press releases, websites, and community PSAs throughout the campaign. For more information, contact Nick Dean at ndean@unitedwaychq.org. A How to Host a Baby Shower toolkit and 2026 sponsorship forms are available online at www.unitedwaychq.org. And next we have an article on the Post-Journal's opinion page. Sex offender risk classification should be revisited. Republicans in the state assembly want to place all convicted sex offenders, even those classified as low risk of reoffending, on the state's publicly searchable sex offender registry. Currently, only sex offenders classified as level 2 moderate risk or level 3 high risk are listed on the publicly searchable areas of the database. The legislation, sponsored by Assemblyman Joe Angelino of Binghamton, has been publicly requested at least twice publicly by Onondaga County Sheriff Toby Shelley in the wake of a case in Onondaga County after a man classified as a level 1 low-risk sex offender continued his behavior for years while targeting multiple children. It is a horrible situation for which there should be a legislative reaction. We're just not sure the Republican-backed bill is the right reaction. Yes, more people would be aware of even level 1 sex offenders in their midst if A 10975 becomes law. But there is a bigger issue with sex offender classifications that can't be fixed by simply changing which sex offenders are listed on public databases that arise from the Onondaga case. The Board of Examiners of Sex Offenders makes a recommendation to judges who are deciding which risk level a sex offender will be listed under after they are sentenced. That board uses a specialized scoring system to evaluate factors like a victim's age and the use of violence. And, as was the case in Onondaga County, the board sometimes gets it wrong. It's worth noting Senator Liz Krueger of New York City and Assemblywoman Pamela Hunter of Syracuse are backing legislation that would require the application of a risk assessment instrument, as well as requiring the Board of Examiners of Sex Offenders to use a validated risk assessment instrument subjected to periodic empirical re-evaluation. Changing the way risk assessment is handled by the Board of Examiners of Sex Offenders could change sex offender designation seen at the local level. If Krueger and Hunter end up being able to move the bill through the legislation. Hunter and Krueger say the risk assessment guidelines created in 1995 need to be updated, but they've had no luck moving their bill through the legislature. Placing all convicted sex offenders on the publicly searchable areas of the state sex offender registry, as Republicans propose, would increase public awareness, but it would still be misleading to the public if the level 1 classification is based on an outdated system that improperly classifies sex offenders. In our view, the whole system should be reevaluated with an eye toward making sure the classifications are right in the first place, ideally in a way that results in both more sex offenders being listed publicly, but more importantly, in a way that doesn't incorrectly classify sex offenders like the one in Onondaga County. And next we have another opinion piece by Keith Roffel. Democracy threat isn't who you think. It's not news that a man in Washington sits atop one of the 3 branches of government who interprets the Constitution as it suits him, disregards precedent, and asserts he knows better than any experts. He has undone key Obama-era initiatives and tolerated glaring conflicts of interest involving his spouse. Of course, I am speaking about Chief Justice John Roberts. Trump has declared the Constitution gives him the right to do whatever I want as president. Although the document promises no such thing, Roberts effectively ratified that claim in Trump versus United States. He wrote, "The president is absolutely immune from criminal prosecution for conduct within his exclusive sphere of constitutional authority." In her scathing dissent, Justice Sonia Sotomayor points that Roberts is granting immunity to the president even if he orders the Navy SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival, organizes a military coup to hold on to power, or takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon. This disregard for settled law has become a hallmark of Roberts' tenure on the Supreme Court. During his 2005 confirmation hearing, Roberts called the right to abort established by Roe v. Wade settled law of the land. And so it was, until the Roberts Court retracted it in its 2022 Dobbs versus Jackson, Women's Health Organization decision. Roberts applied a similar willingness to overturn precedent in interpreting the Second Amendment. While the text of the amendment explicitly links gun rights to a well-regulated militia, Roberts selected Justice Antonio Scalia to write the majority opinion, which disregarded that coupling and granted an unfettered right to gun ownership to individuals. Former Chief Justice Warren Burger, a Republican-appointed predecessor to Roberts, once called such an interpretation a fraud on the American public. The disregard affects even the very heart of American democracy. Over a century ago, President Theodore Roosevelt told Congress corporate contributions to political committees should be forbidden. That held until Roberts' deciding vote in 2010 Citizen United versus Federal Election Commission case, which invited unlimited dark money into American elections. While Trump takes great relish in reversing Obama-era achievements such as the Paris Climate Accords, the record indicates that Obama's policies were no favorite of Roberts either. In voting against Roberts' confirmation as Chief Justice, then Senator Obama warned the judge used his skills on behalf of the strong in opposition to the weak. Roberts proved Obama right in 2015 when he marshaled the votes to freeze the Clean Power Plan, which took on polluting utilities before lower courts could even finish their review. Thus begun the era of the shadow docket, where emergency rulings are issued without full briefing or oral argument. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson has warned the process has an enormously disruptive, potentially corrosive effect on the judiciary. The parallel between Trump and Roberts exceeds even to the disregard of expertise. In 2016, Trump told the Washington Post he trusted his common sense over scientists. In June 2024, Roberts followed suit in his majority opinion, overruling 40 years of precedent to ensure judges, not agency experts, have the final word on regulatory law. As Justice Elena Kagan noted, the court seized exclusive power over every open issue, no matter how expertise-driven or policy-laden. Finally, there is the issue of conflict of interest. Amazon bid $40 million for Melania Trump's documentary, almost triple that of any other bidder. At the same time, Amazon's Web Services and Blue Origin, owned by Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, have contracts with the federal government worth of billions. Roberts appears to have also lived with a conflict for years. A former colleague of his spouse provided documents to Congress and the Justice Department indicating she had earned millions as a legal recruiter, at times from law firms with businesses before her husband's court. In 2020, the New York Times called Trump the greatest threat to American democracy since World War II. He is certainly a top contender, but Trump's time is limited by the calendar and the ballot box. Roberts has presided over the Supreme Court for 21 years and shows no sign of stepping down. If I were a betting man, I'd put my money on John Roberts for the long-term title. Presidents are term limited. The Roberts Court is a lifetime sentence. A Renaissance man, Keith Raffle, has served as the senior counsel to the Senate Intelligence Committee, started a successful internet software company, and had 6 books published, including 5 novels and a collection of his columns. He currently spends the academic year as a resident scholar at Harvard. You can learn more about him at keithraffle.com. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Jamestown Post-Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. And next, under the living section of the paper, we have Dear Annie by Annie Lane. Choosing peace over an endless battle. Dear Annie, I have read your responses to letters about barking dogs and neighborhood noise, and I appreciate the calm, compassionate way you approach these conflicts. You encourage people to start with empathy, assume good intentions, and try to work things out neighbor to neighbor. That sounded wise to us, so we followed that advice exactly. We live surrounded by multiple homes with several dogs, and the barking has become a constant part of our lives. It comes from 3 sides of our property and even from further down the street. It interrupts sleep, work, conversations, and the simple peace of being in our own home. We did everything we were supposed to do. We approached neighbors politely. We were patient. We kept track of the barking, not to be vindictive, but to reassure ourselves we were not imagining how bad it had become. We adjusted our routines, avoided parts of our own house and yard, and even tried meditation. None of it worked. What has been more discouraging is realizing that when the friendly approach fails, the official systems often fail too. Noise rules are vague, enforcement is inconsistent, and the burden seems to fall on the person being disturbed to prove over and over that the problem is real. Meanwhile, chronic barking is brushed off as something people should simply tolerate. We never wanted a feud. We just wanted quiet and the normal enjoyment of our home. Instead, we are now considering moving, not because we want to, but because we feel worn down and out of options. How do you cope with when you have done everything right, but both the neighbors and the system seem unwilling to help? Exhausted by the barking. Well, dear exhausted, you have done everything a good neighbor is supposed to do, and I am truly sorry it has come to this. Sometimes patience, courtesy, and doing the right thing still do not fix the problem. That is not a failure on your part. It is a sign that the situation may simply be bigger than goodwill can solve. Chronic noise wears people down in ways others do not always understand. It affects sleeps, nerves, concentration, and the feeling that your home is truly your own. If you are considering moving, that does not make you weak, dramatic, or selfish. It means you are listening to what your peace and health have been telling you for a long time. Before making any final decisions, you might try one last clear, calm boundary. But if a fresh start is what restores your quality of life, there is no shame in choosing peace over a fight that never ends. And next we have the column To Your Good Health by Dr. Keith Roach. Tooth extraction presents a risk for osteonecrosis of jaw. Dear Dr. Roach, I am a 79-year-old female who's in good health. I am 5 foot tall and weigh 95 pounds, and I'm very active. I've been taking Prolia for the last 2 to 3 years for osteoporosis, which has since improved to osteopenia. right after this past Prolia shot. I developed discomfort in my mouth and was told that I have a cracked root in a molar. I previously had a root canal on this molar and was told that this tooth should be extracted. I realized that it would be best to wait 5 more months to do this to be safe, out of concern of getting osteonecrosis of the jaw. My question is, what do I do in case of an emergency, especially if the tooth becomes infected and needs to be extracted sooner? Also, since I have a history of dental problems, how can I get off Prolia in the future and still protect my bones? Signed, LL. Answer. Dear LL, Prolia is a treatment for osteoporosis that is normally given as an injection every 6 months. Among its side effects is an increase in the risk of ONJ, which is a serious condition that consists of poor blood supply to the bone, causing death in part of the bone to the jaw. The lower jaw, mandible, is much more commonly affected than the upper jaw, maximal. Osteoporosis medicines that slow down the action of the osteoclast, which are the cells that break down bone so that it can be rebuilt, put people at a higher risk of ONJ. These medicines include the bisphonite class, like oral olendrotic and Actonel, as well as the intravenous drug zoledronic acid reclassed. In addition to Prolia, Prolia has the highest risk of ONJ, followed by IV biphosphonates and oral bisphosphonates. A tooth extraction is a high-risk procedure for developing ONJ. For people on Prolia, the risk of ONJ is about 2.3%, which is much higher than the approximate 0.3% for people on oral bisphosphonates. You are right that your best bet is waiting to get the extraction until just before the time you would have taken your next dose of Prolia. In one study, not a single person out of 76 people developed ONJ if they waited 5 to 7 months after their previous dose. However, you don't want to wait too long, as the osteoporosis will start to progress and a person can develop a fracture. The timing needs to be critical, and the medication should be restarted as soon as the extraction site has healed. Your dentist can minimize the risk of ONJ by using an antibiotic and a very careful extraction technique. Some evidence supports the use of plaquette-rich fibrin in the extraction socket, but other studies haven't found a benefit. Your dentist should do this even if you can wait the additional 5 months, and they should certainly do it if the tooth requires extraction sooner. Your doctors who's prescribing Prolia should be discussing the plans with your dentist at this time. Next, we have an article on state news. New York's new jail's boss once served time in cell block he now oversees. Stanley Richards knows how bleak life can be at Rikers Island, New York, the city's notorious jail complex. As a young man, he spent 2 years locked up there for robbery. Now he runs the place as the city's new Department of Corrections commissioner. In January, Mayor Zoran Mandani tapped Richards to become the first formerly incarcerated person to oversee the city's jails. His office inside a converted chapel is across the road from his old cell block. The aging dormitory where Richards was once an inmate before turning his life around was emptied of prisoners 3 years ago due to deteriorating physical conditions. But on a recent visit, he stopped by his old 10 by 7 cell, 3 by 2 meters, and reflected on how little seemed to have changed, except perhaps his perspective. "It doesn't give me bad feelings, you know," Richards said as he surveyed the graffiti-scrawled concrete walls, metal bed frame, and sealed window of the tiny cell. "I offended my community and committed a crime, and I paid my price for it. The truth of my story is a story of redemption." Richards, 65, takes over at a critical juncture for the city's beleaguered jail system. A federal judge in January appointed Rikers' first remediation manager, a new court-ordered position with wide authority to help bring order to the unruly jail following years of problems with violence and questions about inmate health care. Last year, 15 people died in Department of Correction custody, almost all from medical problems, according to the Vera Institute of Justice, a criminal justice advocacy group. A deadline to shutter Rikers and move inmates to 4 smaller jails across the city is also fast approaching. A city law passed in 2019 mandates the closure of all jail facilities on the 400-acre island located just north of LaGuardia Airport by 2027. As he tells it, he grew up in a troubled... I lost my place. Turning from a life of crime, Richards, who started in February, believes his experience as an inmate, advocate, and department leader has uniquely prepared him for the challenges ahead. As he tells it, he grew up in a troubled Bronx housing project, joined a gang at a young age, and quickly turned to selling drugs and committing crimes. He cycled in and out of jails for more than a decade. His last and longest stint was for robbery in the late 1980s. After being released from the upstate prison in 1991, Richards took a job as a counselor at the Fortune Society, a nonprofit that helps inmates re-enter society. Over a 3-decade career there, he rose to CEO. Richard also served in leadership roles at the city's Department of Corrections under former Mayor Bill de Blasio, a Democrat. Ben Heller, a program manager at the Vera Institute, said Richards' appointment sends a hugely powerful message. Commissioner Richards understands that treating people with dignity is not at odds with keeping communities safe. They should go hand in hand, he said. It's clear from his own living experience and the professional experience that he understands that we cannot incarcerate our way to safety. Addressing jailhouse violence, Richard says he plans to tackle violence in the jails by filling some 1,300 staff vacancies, which have led to long hours, unsafe conditions, and ballooning overtime costs. The department employs more than 7,400 people, including more than 5,700 uniformed officers. Correctional officers, Union President Benny Bosco, didn't respond to messages from the Associated Press, but has said he hopes Richards demonstrates a commitment to putting safety and security before any political ideology. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from recent issues of the Jamestown Post-Journal. We read from the Jamestown Post-Journal every Saturday at 6 p.m. Your reader has been Margaret Mack. Thank you for listening.
Coming up next on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have the Niagara Falls Review. At 8 o'clock, we have Off Duty from the Wall Street Journal. And at 9 o'clock, Sports Illustrated. Stay with us for these readings and more. The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability,